Hi, I'm Paul Catalanotto, and this is my friend and colleague Hamp Overton. This is 100 Scariest, where we are looking for the scariest shorts streaming online. In this episode, we're talking about 2022's Catch Your Breath, written and directed by Matt Sears. It stars Samson and Toby Oliver. Hamp came across this one while researching the show. According to social media, Matt is a UK-based filmmaker and has an impressive assortment of shorts on his YouTube channel. The IMDb logline reads, "A shy teenager is peer pressured by his older brother into playing a game that is said to summon the ghost of the town legend, the Lady Beneath. To disprove his brother and impress a girl at school, he reluctantly agrees. The rules of the game are simple. As long as Andrew holds his breath, he is safe from the Lady Beneath." But how long can Andrew hold his breath? Well, what about you, Hamp? How long can you hold your breath? Were you holding your breath while you were watching this horror movie? Were you scared? And you were like,
Well, it was fun reading the comments and the debate about how long you can hold your breath. And people were saying, I could hold it longer. And other people were saying, when you're scared, you can't hold it that long.
no one's funnier than the internet, sir. No one, no one.
Yeah, it
Hamp,
was a lot of fun. It had a great storyline. It looked wonderful. I love the location. Camera work and editing was working really well. But what I noticed this filmmaker, Matt, he does a really good job with audio. And having watched some of his other films also, I really like the world and the environment he creates using audio. And I thought that worked really well in this film here. The other thing that I think he's very talented at is his use of special effects in creation of the monster. Oftentimes, I always tell my students avoid showing the monster because it's never as scary as what someone's imagining. But he creates a pretty scary monster. And so it was just like really horrifying seeing this floating woman with I love the hair as though she's still in water and her hair is floating, which I thought
mhm.
was really a neat touch he added to it. And it just keeps on coming relentless, like in some of those other horror movies where it follows or something like that. It's not stopping, that type of thing. And so that was a real big scare for me and a lot of fun seeing how well he pulled that off again because usually when you see the monster but this one just it kept getting closer and closer and I thought it was a great job in what he did with that monster there.
What I noticed is the monster had his last name. I don't know, was that his wife or sister? Do you know?
It's his mother.
It's
Uh,
mother.
his
I got it
mother has
wrong.
has been in many of his films, and so that was his. I'm sure she does not look. Well, no, you can look at the other films. She doesn't look anything like that. I think she was just a placeholder for all the visual effects that he put on afterwards. So,
And I didn't notice that up until it's funny. I watched this short probably four times before we started talking,
hmm
and when I was doing, the doing the opening, I was writing down the names of the actors, and then I noticed. I was like, "Wait a minute, that's Sears." I was like, "Oh," and I didn't have time to look up who she was. She did a great job as the monster. You could tell she had a lot of fun because her body is really into it. Like
yeah.
she is really performing.
He does a fun 5 tips on how to help with filmmaking, and one of the tips is to use the resources you have, like your mom if she's an actress. So.
I got my mom to act one time in a movie and she swore to God never again. She
Never
hated
again.
it. No. She still talks about it. It comes up Thanksgivings and it's still seared in her brain in the worst kind of way.
Well, it's fun, having watched other shorts, because we show a lot of shorts when we teach. I'll see it often where a brother or a sister or some other sibling will be in a movie, and so it's. I think of Robert Rodriguez when he got his starts. He came from a large family, so he always talks about how he had plenty of talent because he had lots of siblings to put inside him in his short movies that he was making before he broke free and got into the feature film length stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Just breaking this movie down, starting there with the talent. The talent to me is probably one of the shining things. This is with the exception of Finley. Finley would have been the most talkative movie I think we've done. This one would be maybe the second. They do a very good job of being believable. Like, I believe their performances. Maybe if I had to say at the end, I don't quite believe he might be panicked when the brother's dying. If I had to be a nitpicky,
It's funny. I made the same note. That was the only flaw I thought in the performance was at the very, very end. But I certainly believe that boy was being attacked by this spirit and he was terrified and that sort of thing. So it would, yeah. This is one of Matt's earlier films, and so I did see that I thought maybe some of the dialogue could be a little bit improved, and I think he does improve as he progresses. The old I'm he convinces the one character convinces the other character to do this by saying that the girl he likes would be impressed. And I was like, and I guess maybe that would work on someone, but it seemed rather implausible to me that this guy is going to say, "All right, I'll go ahead and do it," because
I
for the love
bought
of a
that
woman.
right away. I'll be
Oh,
honest
did
with you.
you?
I really did. I bought that. I can see that, right? I mean, we've seen that trope in horror movies before. I think I've heard that in Simpsons movie, cartoon. Like, oh, the girl's gonna like you. You're gonna seem really cool. But that's what part of that is what they do really well right off the bat in the movie, right? You get that this is a town legend and it's a big enough legend that if he does this, he will look cool in a bunch of another other people. I know all that within like 2 minutes of the movie.
Yeah. And that's the thing. When you have a short, you got to compress everything and squeeze it all in there right away. And like you said, this one has hats off to them because, as we've discussed before, the hardest part, or one of the hardest parts of performance is dialogue. It's a lot easier to express fright rather than, or curiosity or anger or any of those things, rather than to state it verbally. And so when you start interjecting language into it, it becomes more challenging and you have to have better actors. And I thought they did a pretty good job here.
And too, the thing is, the joke is well designed, in my opinion. He's scared and he doesn't believe it. Then he does it, then he's scared. It does a good job of laying down the rules and
Right.
how the character is eventually going to unfortunately not make it. Spoiler, the character doesn't make it at the very end, but
No one makes it.
it's true, no one makes it. But that's what's really interesting about how he does it. You got to keep your breath for 1 minute, and he says it a number of times. So it's not just holding your breath. He has to maintain holding his breath for a minute to
Mhm.
get rid of this monster. If I had to be, again, if you want to nitpick, maybe the only thing that could have been more visual is if she would have been fading away as she held the breath, so you know.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, but it's kind of fun that she's locked in place,
Hmm.
and it's like to me it makes it more intense that way.
I agree.
That and although I was a little frustrated that he didn't do a better job of trying to crawl away on that right there. And I noticed some of the YouTube comments were saying the same thing. It's like, why didn't he just crawl? But again, in a terror situation, you really don't know how someone's going to behave. So we'll give some lenience there for it. And it made for a fun movie. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, the thing is, though, scientifically, underneath 21, you make bad choices. That's what they say.
Probably when a spirit's on top of you, you make bad choices too. And so,
Well, they made a bad choice just by being in a place like that. It looked like, I mean, at the very least, mold, mildew, and asbestos was a problem.
well, that's the thing is you have a movie like this, and we could sit here and nitpick it and say, well, who's going to discover these bodies and what who discovered the first one that learned all of this information, etc. And so but it's a horror short, and so you can't answer all the questions. You create an environment and then you kind of go with it. And I think for what it did, it was very successful. I enjoyed it. It was a fun ride, and that's what we go to a horror movie for, to escape and enjoy this thrill that doesn't really impact us because it's on the screen. It's not in reality. So.
You make a good point there. At what point did someone say, like, no, look, you gotta light the candle and you gotta hold your breath? Like, I mean, what
Someone's
is the
taking notes. The first.
process? What's the process? Okay, that didn't work. All right, let me try this. Oh, I finally see the ghost. That worked, and I gotta tell everybody.
Don't forget to fill the tub.
It'll be built up. Does it exist because, well, maybe it exists because you believe it does, so therefore it exists, and then the rules work.
There you go. Hmm. Hmm.
The movie stands out to me visually. I think visually is where the movie shines the most. The monster, like you said, incredibly hard to do well in a low budget and in a short film. He nails the monster. She's absolutely terrifying. And the lead up, I gotta be honest, that is such a good moment when you hear the water, and that's when the sound design kicks in, right? And you
Right,
hear somebody coming out
right.
of the tub. That's
Mm-hmm.
unmistakable what you're hearing.
Mm-hmm. And what I think is interesting, because I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole here, is and maybe you can, share your thoughts on this too, is the use of water in horror films.
Mhm.
It comes up quite a bit, especially there's some Japanese ones where they've used water. And what was I was thinking about with the movie Dark Water.
Hmm.
Even in The Grudge, they used some water in there also. And of course, you can look at other non-monster horror movies like Jaws and things like that. That's a different type of horror film. But another movie called What Lies Beneath used the element of water. And I guess because water is it can be frightening, or what are your thoughts on that, Paul?
I think to me it has a lot to do with the fact that water gives and takes life.
Oh yeah. It's the
It,
source of all life. And then of
can't live
course,
without it, but if you have too much of it, it also takes life away from you.
mm-hmm.
I think there's so seldom things like that, right? I mean, water can definitely be too much of a good thing. Ask anybody on the Poseidon adventure about that.
Sure. Titanic, right?
Titanic, too much water is not a good thing. Um,
Or even
I think
floods, is biblical.
it's
You think about the
biblical.
great floods and right, Noah, things of that nature.
Well, I mean, we don't even have to stick with horror films. I mean, Akira Kurosawa loved water in his movies and movement of water in the frame.
Right, right. So I thought that was kind of interesting that it seems to be a common, I won't say it, obviously there are other things, but it's a fairly common theme to go back to and use it. 'Cause like you said, it gives life, it purifies, but at the same time, and maybe it's because it does give life and purify and we enjoy it. We can swim in it, we bathe in it, but at the same time, it's deadly, in certain
You can even be
circumstances.
baptized in it.
Right, there you go.
Baptized. And I mean, there is a lot to be said that. I mean, it's a sacred thing on any level. I guess we can look at it as a sacred thing that can
Sure.
be
The River
abused.
Ganges in India, right?
Yeah.
hmm
I can tell you my mother is frightened of water, terrified of it.
Did you share this
Terrified.
movie?
Yeah, maybe I should share this movie with her. It's just, but there is. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons it works is because there is a fear of going into the water, like with Jaws, right? There's
hmm
people who fear all sorts of things, and I think the other thing is it's common. 70% of this world is water, right? Even a little more so, 72, right?
Right,
So,
right.
like, I mean, if you make something that is so ubiquitous,
hmm
most of us have tubs, you
We
know,
bathe. We
yeah, we
drink
bathe.
water. Right. There's probably a body of water around most people, whether it's a lake or a river or an ocean.
Exactly. And I think that's one of the reasons why this short stands out. I mean, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Matt is a fantastic filmmaker. If you look through his body of work, you won't be disappointed.
hmm
Um, I favor this one over some of his other ones, not because it for quality reasons. It's just when I think about a horror short, this one checks all those boxes for me.
Yeah.
But like you were talking about his newest one is a very mature movie, a beautiful movie. You can tell he's grown as a filmmaker, right?
Yeah, he explores different types of horror, and which is fun. This is one type of horror where we talked about the theme of water and going into the haunted house alone. But he also does, as we were discussing earlier, he does cosmic horror too. He's a fan of that. And then his most recent film, which if you read a little, he has a nice feedback to the audience in the YouTube comments of his most recent film, where he says this is a more personal film as it relates to, and it relates to basically child abuse and things of that nature and two sisters. So he doesn't really pigeonhole himself. Even though they're all horror films, he doesn't pigeonhole himself in the type of horror film he does. and that makes him interesting. He explores these different avenues, and I think he's talented. And there's something I want us to do at some point, Paul, and that's again, this is from what he mentions in another video he has, which is he mentions 5 things. Yeah, I don't want to give him away because I think people should watch his video as he does it himself. He says 5 tips for zero budget filmmaking, and that's what we're exploring here. We're exploring these horror shorts, which are often made by people without a lot of money. And one thing that seems to be coming up again and again with these horror shorts is the skill in post production and
Mhm.
how that just seems to bring it from this level up to this level. And so it's almost a requirement these days, I would say, if you're going to be an independent filmmaker, that you have to have that skill set. You or your partner you work with, something like that, can do that and add another level of sophistication. And he has a nice demo reel also, if you go to his YouTube channel, showing the different effects he can do and things of that nature.
I agree with you. I think that's one of the things we are coming back to. I don't think you need to overshow the monster, but I do think you have to give a payoff to for these to be successful, especially as some of the things that we've been watching. If you look at, say, even Ballerina, right?
Hmm.
You see the monster and it pays off. It might look, it's a mirror reflection, but there's something there that looks hard to do. You got to have that one little thing that's like, oh, they didn't just shoot it, in their bedroom. And the ghost in this movie is definitely that. That is a very effective effect. You can tell how he CGI'd her hair and made her like she was
Yeah.
underwater. Great.
It's funny you mention that because we watched that one that takes place in someone's bedroom, remember, on the video game. So,
And
so
yeah,
you
but the but
so
the
you can
monster,
do that.
but the monster at the end is what I mean. That one had a hell of a hook too.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? I think you're right. I think you have to have that strange detractor to get yourself in the upper echelon of these kind of movies.
Yeah, maybe we should challenge ourselves to try and find one that, well, actually, Mama Agnes didn't really have it. That was, I don't remember any of the effects in that one.
The mom, though, looks very uncanny, if you don't
Maybe he
remember.
scratched her face or something like
Yeah,
that, or,
I think he stretches it just slightly, but there's something about the mom and the way he lit it. But and that's just as subtle as maybe the smile, but there's something there. There's a payoff as well, and I think that's what you're hinting at, is that you need some kind of payoff in these movies. It can't just be, we don't see the monster.
right.
We need to see something.
That just seems to be the pattern that we're witnessing. But I guess if, you know, what's the movie you were just talking about? The filmmaker is going to get to has an opportunity to make a feature now. Which one was
Oh,
it?
Portrait of God. Yeah, like just reading that in I mean, just Deadline. That's going to be
Right.
a feature-length movie. That
Hmm.
came. I would love to hear how he did it because, we did that interview with Zachary just a couple of weeks ago. He was talking about the trouble he's had pitching Finley.
Right.
And I would love to know, like, well, what about Portrait of God was a sell and why Finley isn't?
Sure.
And if you remember what he said that the producers were telling him were telling him that well, they felt like the story was told. Whereas in
Hmm.
Portrait of God, maybe it
That's true.
isn't.
It could be the opening, right? It could be an opening scene, Portrait of God. You're right. And it might be that because, unfortunately, because it's a longer movie, Finley, he was able to answer a lot more questions and tell a more complete story. Whereas Portrait of God was, I think, 6 minutes long or something like that, 5 minutes long. And so it's almost like I won't say the first act, but it's like, that opening teaser you see before the movie starts. It establishes a bunch of stuff here. Um, but that I was getting with that movie too. I was about to say, well, there's no effects in that one, but I think there were when she goes into the room, the void area,
Yeah.
and the all-seeing creature or whatever. It looks like there was some effects on that creature too. If I'm not mistaken, there were. So I guess I'm getting back to my idea is that young filmmakers need to make sure that they know how to use these effects that we see done time and time again, especially if you're doing horror films because they venture into, whether it's practical effects like Ballerina, where, he explains the broken finger, I think in the behind the scenes one, and it's a practical effect. It's not CGI or anything like that. And so, or maybe it was, I don't recall. But anyway, long story short is especially with horror films, you can't just be a good director and a good writer and a good editor. You also have to have skill sets in post-production. And I think that is becoming true not just for horror films, but also, because so many cameras these days shoot in RAW or they shoot with a log format. You have to color correct them. And then, of course, to emulate a different location or something like that, you have to know how to put a backdrop against something, or a green screen or something to that effect. So it really has become that's almost a basic requirement, like understanding your camera, like understanding your audio gear, like understanding your editing equipment, like understanding directing. It's a lot of things that you have to do these days. And so that's just part of it these days.
Well, I mean, these shorts can compete now, you know?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think I often think the standards on a short are higher than a feature.
Yeah, I think you're right. And the interesting thing is that, you're one of those filmmakers that has all these skills, Paul. I don't. I do not have that sophisticated post-production skills, but you do. And so that's why you're able to make these films also a lot like this. But that's just, I guess, because I teach young filmmakers in my beginning film class and my more advanced ones, and it's real important. I have seen some more mature filmmakers that can tell a good story without effects, but they certainly do need to know how to color correct at the very bare minimum that's a requirement in post-production. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just like you're saying, it's changing. It's more. I think to just boil it down, it's just more competitive, and I think people need to pay attention to this because we are now seeing the back rooms as being turned into a feature-length movie. We're now seeing Portrait of God being turned into a feature-length movie. If these movies are successful, then we could very well be seeing the beginning of Hollywood mining YouTube, which is
Uh,
it's been doing
Sure.
before, but on a larger scale. Lights Out. I mean, was a
Hmm.
YouTuber.
Hmm.
What is
Well,
it? Bring Her Back was that, or Talk to Me. These were YouTubers, so we could be seeing where Hollywood will be giving these more a bet what is it? A harder look. So I mean, I think anytime you put a short out there, I think you're auditioning for a bigger job, more
that's
so
an
than
interesting
ever.
point. Right. And with all these streaming channels, they're all desperate for content also, and so they need to find it somewhere, and why not look for someone who has a lot of talent? And that's what happens with these short films is that they don't just say, "Here's $10 million, go make a horror film." They they say, "All right, here's your producer, and this person's going to
Exactly.
help you make this movie, and but you clearly have talent, you're creative, and you have a good eye, that type of thing, and then and and hopefully that will create something that is going to be another good filmmaker in their catalog of filmmakers that they have that these studios want to have."
Absolutely. Because, like, you look, it was like the guy we did one with the bedroom one. His shorts were in deadline, but we never saw those shorts. I would love to talk to him to see what happened to those.
Hmm. Yeah, when we talked to Zachary, he was clearly making commercials. So
Yeah.
there's more places to, use your skills. I mean, he obviously wanted to make another feature, and I think he's working towards that. But a feature is a huge commitment. So I think he has an agent and he's shooting commercials. So he's actively working in the industry and getting more experience. If not on a feature film, he's at least learning how to work with a professional crew and in a professional environment. Whereas, like this film that we just watched here, uh, he, he on one of his shorts, he did a behind the scenes one. I think it was the one where, again, his mother was in it. She goes to one of his H.P. Lovecraft ones where she goes and puts the urn of her spouse. Um, he said they had a crew of four. And so when you make a feature film, that someone else is paying for, you're going to have more than four people. Okay. So, so that's now you have to have management skills and they want to know if you have those skills also. And all sorts of things and it's a much bigger project and you have to address all sorts of issues. So yeah, and of course you need these special people that can do this. And I think you're right that they're looking to YouTube to find who they are.
And I wonder, catch your breath. Like this is nothing against this short in this respect, but this is a short I wouldn't want to see a feature. And I don't mean that as a slight, I mean that as a compliment. I thought that this was perfectly contained. I saw everything that I wanted to see out of this in this short runtime, which I admire about this movie.
Well, he again in the comments he mentioned that it's 2 years ago that he was hoping to make it into a feature because someone asked in the comments, "Hey, this should be a feature," and he says, "I'm working on it." And so maybe he has a feature script based on the same thing. Um,
And look, if it's amazing, no, nothing against. I'm definitely striking out today. But I'm serious. I mean, that's what I really enjoyed about this short. I thought I got the whole experience
it's
in this
self-contained,
runtime.
right? Right. But again, as we talked about earlier, this could be uh, this could let's say this short was took place in 1970 or something like that, right?
Hmm.
In the days, and now it's present day, and a family moves into that house. We've heard this story before, where and so it's got this issue with it, and they have to address it, and so they could take that tack on it and bring it into contemporary times like that. What I enjoyed is this a morality tale? What do you think, Paul? This often horror films are morality tales, like you do something wrong and the bad things happen to you. The classic ones are even back in the 80s, Friday the 13th, my friend, after we watched a couple of them, he said, "This is a classic." Well, he didn't say morality tale. He said, "Notice how everyone that has sex, they get killed. And the only
Oh
person
yeah.
that doesn't have sex is the hero." And this is the same thing for the Halloween movies and stuff like this. So is this a morality tale?
Well, I definitely think it's definitely a campfire tale. It,
Okay.
it it definitely feels like an 80s movie in that respect from the girlfriend from trying to impress the girlfriend. But yeah, it's that same old thing that we've been saying since we told stories. Don't mess with the unknown.
Yeah, there you go. So it's a lesson, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
and that's very clear here, right? I mean,
Yeah,
don't
and
mess with things that you don't
sure,
understand.
sure. And he uses all of the primal things that scare us, right? We talked about water. The light is nighttime when they go in there. The person is alone,
Hmm.
and then what happens? The lights go out, right? And so, although I was wondering how he could see the creature when all the lights were out and he's falling down the stairs. Um, but yeah, all these things he's great at using all these tropes that are we're innately afraid of pack them in this package here. And it's not just what we're seeing that scares us, it's our own experiences too, knowing, yikes, I don't like it when the lights are out and I hear a noise or you hear splash in the tub. And that's really got to be freaky. That's great where he turns the lights off and then you hear the splashing in the tubs. It's just like,
Hmm.
oh, wow. Yeah, that's really good. So he takes advantage of all these things. But, most horror movies do that. So I enjoy that he put that all in there. Um,
I'd be remiss to talk about probably two of the best things, two things that I thought were well put or well placed. One, the way he explains, why don't you do it with me? No, you got to be alone or it won't work. Great place line. Great way to put exposition in there. Like you
Sure.
feel the exposition, but it's also kind of like, uh-oh, he's got to be alone.
Oh, yeah, he's building the structure, tonk, 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 tonk. And it works. Yeah.
And then the other thing is it's really heartbreaking. I mean, you're a parent, I'm a parent. It's heartbreaking when he falls down the stairs and you realize he not got the breath knocked out of him and he can't save himself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he also dies. That's heartbreaking too.
Well, that's coming is what I mean. There's not going to be any saving. He's not going to make it.
On a lot of these horror movies we're watching, Finley being the exception. People don't survive. They just, and I think about a lot of horror movies, the feature horror movies. I'm thinking like The Ring, which reminded me of this movie also, because the girl falls down the well in The Ring and there's water again. Um, the protagonist survives, and it gives you someone to root for, and they survive, and that allows you to have a sequel for one thing. But on these shorts, the protagonist often doesn't survive, which is kind of interesting.
I've thought about this a lot.
Mm,
I have. This funny you bring it. I have thought about this. In a feature length, it. I'll start with the short. Let me start with the short. In a short, if you're creepy, it's like it continues on and it leaves you with something.
gotcha.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this
Hmm.
is a creepy short. It gives you that I want to show someone else. If they survive at the end, it doesn't quite have that campfire-esque feeling like, hey, let me tell you about this person that made it. Doesn't feel the same.
Right, you're relieved. It's like, oh, whew,
Yeah, no,
made
we
it
don't
through
need to
it.
see it. They made it. Long
Uh-huh.
story short, they made it. You don't need to
Okay.
see it. You don't need to feel it. I think there's a sense of sharing it and you feeling what I'm feeling. However, with a feature length, it's different. When you watch a movie and they don't make it, sometimes you run the risk of not feeling fulfilled. It's like, God, Lee, they moved into the poltergeist house and all this, and they still lost their daughter and they all died.
Hmm.
You feel like crap at the end, and you see what I mean? It's different. It's just a different exercise of your emotions.
It is. And you think it's the time length, 2 hours versus say 10 minutes, 5 minutes?
I do think it has a lot to do with the time length, personally.
I wonder what that is. Maybe we should dig into that a little bit more.
Maybe so. I think it's because of investment. I think it's
Hmm.
something to do with investment.
I think that might be it right there. When you have a 2 hour investment, you want what is it? You want more satisfaction, but I
Yeah.
mean, but 10 minutes leaves you more frightened. I'm not sure. I'm kind of curious what that answer is. So,
I guess it goes with it. I had wasn't a professor, it was a filmmaker. He told me that movies are the most expensive things that you spend your time with because you spend your time with them. It's
mm,
like you put your money into them, but you literally spend your life. You give that hour and a half to
right.
this. So, and there's nothing more expensive than your time. So maybe that has something to do with it. Is like you want to get what you're paying for. If I'm giving you an hour and 30 minutes, then I need more emotions. I need to feel more things. I can't just feel nihilism at the end of,
I
blinking.
I
I don't know.
bet you there's someone watching us talk right now, screaming out the answer. I've done that before. And she's like, no, no, it's this. This is why. And there's some psychological reason or something like that. But
Right in the
let's,
comments.
there you go. Please give us the answer. Uh-huh.
Yeah, we would love to know. All right. Well, I guess that about does it for Catch Your Breath. I guess let me read three comments. This is a great one. Moral of the story: don't give in to peer pressure. That's a good story. Look, you were looking for your lesson. There you go. He really should have walked out. I would have. I wouldn't have done that.
That was the good. I remember reading that. I think I even made a note of that same comment. It was very good. Uh-huh.
This one was funny. Bro has the lungs of a 90-year-old smoker. Like, how can he not hold his breath for 20 seconds?
And then it was on the peer pressure one. Peer pressure, the number one leading cause of teenage supernatural deaths.
Yeah.
That one cracked me up.
There's a whole movie in just that alone.
Scary movie.
So that about wraps it up, I guess, for Catch Your Breath. So the next movie we have picked up is by Michelin Pitt, a movie called Grummy. And one of the things I'm interested about this movie, Hamp, is this is the movie that led to her being a part of the VHS Halloween anthology. And as we've been working on this, I have become more and more fascinated with shorts that turn into professional or feature length or just bigger platform
Hmm.
jobs. And I think she's going to be great to talk about in her short.
Good. Looking forward to it.
All right. Well, for 100 Scariest, I'm Paul and this is Hamp. If you have any thoughts, leave them in the comments below. Like, comment, share. And until next time, this is 100 Scariest. Peace out.